If this video found you, it means you're ready. But ready for what? Because the truth is, alchemy was never about turning metals. That was always the deception that kept the uninitiated away. True alchemy transforms something far more valuable. You. Few make it this far. Even fewer walk through the door. But what if I told you there's an ancient knowledge, hidden for centuries, reserved only for those who are prepared for transformation? If you feel like something is wrong with the world, like there's a secret that's been kept from you, know this. It's no coincidence that you're here right now. The call has arrived, but will you listen? Hermes Trismegistus, a name shrouded in mystery, a riddle that has crossed civilizations, challenged empires, and survived the test of time. Who was he? A man? A god? A myth carefully crafted to hide truths that couldn't fall into the wrong hands. The ancients knew that some truths couldn't be revealed to the world without consequences. Knowledge was a sharp blade. In the right hands, it could set you free. In the wrong ones, it could destroy. That's why Hermes' teachings were protected, encoded, hidden in plain sight. But one thing is certain. He didn't leave his legacy to chance. Hermes was called thrice-great because he mastered the three supreme arts: alchemy, astrology, and theurgy. He knew the secrets of transmutation, not just of metals, but of consciousness itself. He understood the harmony between the stars and human destiny. And most importantly, he knew how mankind could ascend beyond the limits of matter. This is how Hermeticism was born, a system of knowledge that has endured for millennia, absorbed by alchemists, magicians, philosophers, and secret societies. And this is where the Kybalion comes in. A small book, few pages, no identified author. But make no mistake, this is no ordinary book. It's a grimoire, a code, a map drawn by those who knew the secrets of the universe but understood they couldn't be handed to just anyone. That's why it was written in an enigmatic way, simple words yet loaded with hidden meanings. Who are the three initiates, the authors who remained in the shadows? They knew revealing their identities didn't matter. What mattered was the knowledge itself. The Kybalion was never meant to be a bestseller, nor debated in universities. It was made for those who already felt the call, for those who, deep down, already knew that the world is not what it seems. But Hermetic knowledge has always been a threat to the system. In the Middle Ages, Hermetic texts were considered too dangerous to circulate freely. They were hunted, burned, hidden in crypts, and passed on through symbols and allegories. Societies like the Rosicrucians and Freemasonry preserved these teachings in rituals and secret manuscripts. The reason? Simple. Hermeticism teaches that reality is not fixed, that everything you believe about the world can be shaped, that your mind has the power to transform your own existence. And a human being who understands this cannot be controlled. The system needs you to believe you're trapped, that your life is already set in stone, that you are just an insignificant piece on a much bigger chessboard. But Hermeticism says otherwise. It says you are the chessboard, that you are the architect of your own reality. This idea has been fought against with all possible force, but it cannot be erased. The ancient masters knew the time would come, that, at some point in history, humanity would awaken again. That's why the teachings were spread, hidden in symbols, buried inside forbidden texts, protected by societies that would never allow this knowledge to disappear. And now, it has reached you. Mentalism and the alchemy of consciousness. But before they could burn all the books, before they could erase the symbols or silence the initiates, the first principle was already engraved into the very fabric of reality. The all is mind. This was the greatest revelation of Hermeticism, the idea that everything that exists, everything you see, touch, and feel, is nothing more than a projection of the primordial mind. A truth so powerful that, if deeply understood, could topple empires and reshape the very destiny of humanity. Because if everything is mind, then everything can be shaped. The alchemists knew this. They understood that the transmutation of lead into gold wasn't a physical process, but a mental one. Lead was raw, heavy, dense consciousness. Gold was the purified, awakened mind, aligned with cosmic laws. The first key to the great work has always been mentalism, the principle that separates those who live at the mercy of circumstances from those who shape their own reality. And if you think this is just a theory, look around. Everything that exists in the physical world started as a thought. Every work of art, every invention, every empire, before they became concrete, they were conceived in someone's mind. But that's just the surface layer of this principle. What the ancient masters knew is that reality as a whole is nothing but a mental manifestation. Just as a dream feels real while you're inside it, the physical world is an illusion sustained by consciousness. The universe itself pulses like a living idea, flowing through infinite forms and patterns. This is where the concept of prima materia comes in, the primordial substance of creation. The ancient alchemists believed that everything in the universe originated from a single, malleable essence that could be shaped by will. This invisible substance wasn't just something that existed in the external world, it was within the alchemist himself. The mind was the furnace, the will was the fire, and thought was the raw metal that could be refined into its highest form. When the initiate understood this, the transformation began. He was no longer a prisoner of circumstances. He realized he wasn't a passive spectator of existence, but an active creator. And instead of trying to change the world from the outside in, he started with the only thing he truly had the power to transform, his own consciousness. Because the first step of the great work doesn't happen in a laboratory. True alchemy begins in the mind, but the mind alone doesn't operate in a void. It moves within a greater pattern, an invisible structure that connects all things. The ancients called this law correspondence. As above, so below. As within, so without. These words aren't just a philosophical principle. They are a mirror reflecting the deepest secret of existence. The universe is not fragmented. What happens in the higher realms has its counterpart in the material world. What vibrates in the macrocosm resonates in the microcosm. And if everything is connected, then what's inside you also shapes what's outside. The alchemists knew that human beings weren't separate from the universe, but were a miniature version of it, a living copy of the forces that govern the stars and the cycles of nature. The sun and the moon, the planets and the stars, the elements and the winds, each of these principles lives within us. The physical body is earth, the blood is water, the internal heat is fire, the breath is air. The spirit, this invisible force that moves us, is the ether that permeates all. This is the true meaning of the great work. It's not about mastering the external world, but understanding that it and the internal world are one and the same. The alchemist doesn't seek to transform only matter, but to realize that the very transformation of the mind alters reality itself. He observes the cycles of nature because he knows they are reflected in the cycles of the soul. Just as the sun rises, grows and sets, so too do the periods of expansion and withdrawal in a human life. Just as the seasons change, consciousness moves through winters and springs. Those who understand this correspondence don't fight against the rhythms of life. They align with them. The ancient magicians observed the sky because they knew that the movements of the stars signaled changes in their own thoughts and emotions. The phases of the moon don't just influence the tides, they affect the cycles of the mind and human energy. The planet Mercury doesn't just govern external communication, it also shapes the way thoughts flow within us. And just as the alchemists distilled physical substances, they also distilled experiences, separating the dense from the subtle, transforming raw suffering into refined wisdom. This process of observation is what leads to the discovery of the true philosopher's stone, the philosophical fire and the secret of transmutation. But understanding that everything is connected is just the beginning. Because if everything is a reflection, if what's inside shapes what's outside, then there's an even deeper secret waiting to be revealed. Nothing is ever still. The entire universe vibrates. every particle, every star, every thought, everything is in constant motion, oscillating at different frequencies. What we call matter is nothing more than condensed energy, vibrating at such a low speed that it appears solid. But the truth is, everything that exists, from the densest to the most subtle, is pure vibration. And if everything vibrates, then everything can be changed. The ancient alchemists knew this. They didn't just understand transmutation as a concept, they applied it on every level of existence. They spoke of a secret fire, an invisible heat that didn't burn the skin but consumed the impurities of the soul. This fire wasn't physical, it was vibrational, an internal process of raising one's frequency that transformed raw consciousness into something refined, subtle, and illuminated. This fire can be activated through sound, thought, breath, and intention. And this is where we uncover one of the most closely guarded secrets of the ancient masters, the power of the word. Words are not just sounds we make when we speak. They are frequencies, vibrational formulas that influence matter, alter states of consciousness, and reconfigure the energy around us. This is why mantras and prayers have been used for millennia. When spoken with intention, these words resonate in invisible dimensions and align reality with their vibration. Let me share with you a short story that illustrates what we are learning. It is said that in a distant village, surrounded by mountains and ancient rivers, lived an old master. He was known for never raising his voice, for never rushing, and yet everything around him flowed with harmony. His home was a living garden where flowers bloomed even in the coldest seasons, and animals approached him without fear. One day, a young apprentice came to him, intrigued. "Master, what is your secret? How does everything around you seem to be in balance while the rest of the world is so chaotic?" The old man smiled and replied, "Look at the water in the river. It never stands still. Even when it seems calm, there is an invisible flow, a constant vibration moving it from one point to another. Life is the same way. Everything is in motion. But those who don't realize this try to hold on to what should be flowing, and they suffer." The young man furrowed his brow. "But how do you keep everything in harmony?" The master picked up a small copper bell and rang it gently. The sound spread through the air, vibrating in a subtle yet profound way. "The universe responds to sound," he said. "Words, thoughts, and intentions are like this bell. Each of us emits a vibration. Those who learn to tune their frequency know how to adjust the world around them." The apprentice thought about this for a long time, and over the years he realized that everything around him responded to the vibration he carried within himself. If he was in disorder, he attracted confusion. If his mind was elevated, everything flowed. If his words were harsh, they created resistance. But if his words were precise and conscious, they moved invisible forces that organized the world around him. This is the essence of transmutation. The true alchemist doesn't seek to change only what's outside. He shifts his own internal frequency until his vibration can harmonize everything around him. He understands that his voice is an instrument, that his thoughts are tools, that his intention is the flame that ignites the sacred fire within him. And when he learns to vibrate at the right rhythm, reality responds. But shifting your own vibration is only part of the journey. Because at the heart of the great work, there's a challenge that few are willing to face. A secret that separates true initiates from those just looking for easy answers. The universe is made of opposites. Light and shadow, masculine and feminine, spirit and matter, life and death. For centuries, seekers have tried to choose a side, believing that enlightenment comes from rejecting one pole in favor of the other. But the ancient alchemists knew this wasn't true. Because true transformation doesn't happen by denying one extreme, but by uniting both in perfect harmony. Solve et coagula, dissolve to rebuild. That was the alchemist's motto, and it didn't just refer to the transmutation of matter, it was the inner process of transformation. Before reaching enlightenment, one had to dissolve false identities, limiting beliefs, deep-rooted fears. It was necessary to face one's own shadow without fear, for within it lay the keys to awakening. The problem is that few are willing to do this. Most people only want the light. They want to get rid of pain, impulses, doubt. But by rejecting the shadow, they become prisoners of it, because everything that is repressed grows in the dark. The true alchemist doesn't deny the darkness within. He faces it, understands its cycles, and transforms it into knowledge. And just as the universe dances between opposites, consciousness itself follows a cyclical rhythm, an inevitable flow that guides the initiate through different stages of evolution. The ancients called this process nigredo, albedo, and rubedo. The first stage, nigredo, is symbolic death, the moment when everything one believed to be true begins to crumble. The ego dissolves, old certainties disappear, the identity built over a lifetime is broken down in the fire of transformation. It's a period of chaos, doubt, deep questioning. Many give up here, but those who persist move on to the next stage. Albedo is purification, the moment when light begins to emerge from darkness. The alchemist, having faced his own shadows, now finds clarity. What was once confusion becomes discernment. The inner fire begins to stabilize, but the process is still not complete. The final stage, rubedo, is illumination, the rebirth of the being who was destroyed and rebuilt, the integration of opposites, the perfect fusion of the spiritual and the material. This is where the philosopher's stone is found, not as an object, but as a state of consciousness. And these cycles don't happen just once. They repeat, just like the seasons of the year, like the movements of the stars, like the tides that rise and fall. Because everything in the universe follows a rhythm. The initiate who understands this no longer resists the changes of life. He knows there are moments of destruction and moments of rebuilding, and that both are necessary. He does not fear winter, because he knows it's just a cycle before spring. And by aligning with this flow, he finally becomes what he was always meant to be. The sacred marriage of inner alchemy. The journey of the great work doesn't end with understanding cycles, because within every human being there is an even greater fusion, a duality that must be reconciled before true transmutation can take place. Everything in the universe is created through the interaction of two opposing but complementary forces. In Hermeticism, this principle is called gender. But this isn't just about the difference between male and female as we know it. The principle of gender exists in everything, from atoms to galaxies, from the subtlest of thoughts to the grand structures of the cosmos. It is the force of action and receptivity, the creative impulse, and the fertile field where that impulse manifests. The ancient alchemist called this balance the sacred marriage, the union of the sun and the moon, sulfur and mercury, the active and the passive. The one who understood this union within himself was no longer fragmented. He became the sacred androgen, the being who reconciled both aspects within and therefore became whole. This secret was hidden within Hermetic teachings, Kabbalistic traditions, and the alchemical symbols left behind by secret societies. Because a being who integrates their inner duality becomes a conscious creator. He is no longer driven by uncontrolled impulses, nor does he seek outside what can only be found within. And this is where we arrive at one of the greatest powers of the initiate, awareness of cause and effect. Because if everything in the universe follows a rhythm, if everything manifests through the mind and the balance of opposing forces, then one truth is inescapable. Everything you do creates a consequence. The ancients called this karma, but far from being a punishment or a fixed fate, karma is simply the sum of all the vibrations a human being generates through thoughts, words, and actions. It is not a sentence, but an exact equation where every choice brings a corresponding effect. And this is where the difference lies between those who live on autopilot and those who awaken to their true nature. Most people react to life without realizing they are creating their own destiny at every moment. They are driven by the past, trapped in repetitive patterns, believing they are victims of circumstance. But the initiate knows that everything can be transformed. Every conscious action is an alchemical movement. Every thought directed with intention is a seed planted in the fabric of reality. Every spoken word carries a vibration that shapes what is to come, and this is what the great masters have always tried to teach. Hermes Trismegistus, Paracelsus, Fulcanelli, Manly P. Hall, all of them, in different ways, pointed to the same path. A path that cannot be walked through theory alone, but through the direct experience of transformation. The Kybalion is not an ordinary book. It was not written just to be read, it was meant to be lived. It is a map left behind by those who walk this path before us, a guide for those who feel that there is something beyond the visible world. But this knowledge isn't handed to just anyone. The final question was never in the books, nor in the masters, nor in the secret societies. It has always been right in front of those who dare to look within themselves, because the true philosopher's stone isn't hidden in a laboratory, it's inside you. But for those who stayed until the end, I have something even more special to share. If this journey awakened something inside you, if every word resonated like a calling, then know this is only the beginning. The knowledge that transformed the great masters of history is still alive, waiting to be rediscovered by those who dare to go beyond. That's why I left, in the first pinned comment, the recommendation of 2 books that were essential in helping me dive even deeper into alchemy and its mysteries. The first is the Kybalion, a true grimoire that reveals the hidden principles of the universe, written for those who are ready to understand the laws that govern existence. The second is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. But don't be fooled, this book isn't just a story, it's a map disguised as fiction. Within it, deep secrets about the journey of self-discovery and inner transmutation are hidden for those who know how to see beyond the words. If you felt the calling, these books will guide you even deeper in your quest for the great work. See you in the next video.